Coming up, the search for a man accused of murdering a woman at a park in Perry County continues this morning. And police could release new details today in the investigation in the death of a Central Kentucky mother. And could where you live have an impact on your mental health and suicide rates? We'll have the results of a new study.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Connor James. Today is Monday, July 15th. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, happy Monday to you, buddy.
Happy Monday, and hopefully everybody's having a good start to their Monday. But again, Connor, it's going to be one of those situations where you want to take the rain gear with you. You may not need it everywhere, but you will need it in some areas later this afternoon. The clouds I talked about all morning long are around at Stonecrest Golf Course this morning. You could see kind of a clouded in over there, but some spots will wake up with a little bit of sunshine this morning. Some spots will not. So again, it all depends on what you see today, on what your temperatures will be. Right now, visibility an issue, especially down in the Cumberland Valley. Less than a mile of visibility at Jonesville, 1 mile exactly at Williamsburg. Remember, anything less than 5, which those are the only two locations that fitting that criteria right now, is very dense fog. Live pinpoint Doppler radar scanning clear, but the clouds are around, and we're going to continue to see those for most of the day. Temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s, depending on where you are. 68 in Wise, Jonesville, and Moorhead to 72 in Prestonsburg. That's your range. 72 also in Paducah, 74 Owensboro and Bowling Green, 68 Cincinnati, 70 Charleston, West Virginia, and in the Tri-Cities of Tennessee and Virginia. Iced coffee forecast, 69, give or take a degree or two. You'll need a large coffee throughout the day today, both because it's Monday and because you'll need some little cool down a little bit later on as we get up to around 86. Again, if you see more sunshine, you'll see more heat. I'll have the rest of that forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Connor?
All right, thanks, Brandon. Well, police are still searching for the suspect in a Perry County murder case. It happened yesterday morning at the Bobby Davis Park in Hazard. Police say this man, Anthony Lewis, stopped at a local homeless shelter with blood on his clothes. He had been out with 37-year-old Marlena Holland, who was later found dead in the park. Lewis's whereabouts are not known. Multiple law enforcement agencies are continuing to search the area.
They give us this general area of where to look. At that time, several officers from the department started doing a search of the Bobby Davis Park, and they was able to locate the victim, a 37-year-old female who had apparently been beaten to death.
Lewis was last seen at the Hope House in Hazard around 6 Sunday morning. He is a Leslie County native. If you see him, you're asked to call the Hazard Police Department at 606-436-2222. We learned yesterday that Lewis has a long criminal history. He was previously convicted in a kidnapping and victim death in 1995. The crime happened in December of 1992. He and another man, James Smith, who you see in the video here, were accused of robbing, kidnapping, and killing Randall Bentley. During the trial, Lewis was already serving time in an Eddyville prison. Records show he faced multiple robbery offenses. Meanwhile, some people are collecting donations for the victim's family. If you would like to donate to Marlena Holland's funeral, you can stop by Hazard City Hall and go to the front desk during normal business hours. Well, we could learn new details today about the disappearance and death of Savannah Spurlock. The man charged in connection with the case is due in court for a preliminary hearing. David Sparks was arrested earlier this week. He's charged with tampering with physical evidence and abuse of a corpse. Police say they found Spurlock's remains on a property in Garrett County owned by his family. Spurlock had been missing since early January. Garrett Weimer explains her family is still hoping for more answers at her death.
Friends and family say tip boxes they put up last month around Garrett County are still up if anyone knows anything more, and their anonymous online tip line is also still open. They say the arrest of David Sparks in connection with the case is one step toward closure after Savannah's body was found last week.
We know that Savannah has not been suffering all of this time. She has been cradled in the arms of our great Savior, Jesus Christ. As hard as the last 6 months have been, the truth of what happened that night in January is going to be even more painful.
As the journey now takes another turn, Hudsonville Honey, based in Richmond, is making these Justice for Savannah t-shirts at the request of Spurlock's friends. Proceeds from the sales will go to Spurlock's family. They still have a lot of questions, and they know the answers won't be easy. as the long road begins in the justice system.
And I've said from day one that somebody that lived in that house where she was last seen had to know what happened to Savannah Spurlock, bottom line, without question.
David Sparks was arraigned last week. A not guilty plea was entered for him, and the judge assigned him a public defender. So far, the only arrest. Right now, we don't know if any more arrests or charges could come soon. Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Sparks' hearing is scheduled for 9 this morning in Garrett County District Court. Visitation for Savannah Spurlock is from 5 to 9 Tuesday night at Oldham Roberts and Powell Funeral Home in Richmond. Funeral and burial services are being kept private for the family. In other news, Louisville Metro Police arrested a woman after they say she tried to kill a puppy. Officials say Tanisha Pearson beat a puppy that did not belong to her. Several witnesses said they saw Pearson pick up a small dog and strike it with a closed fist before picking it up by the throat and slamming it into the concrete. She allegedly threatened to kill the owners of the dog while officers were on the scene. Pearson is charged with torturing a dog. And in Bell County, deputies say 2 people were taken to the hospital after a single vehicle crash on US 25 yesterday afternoon. The crash closed the southbound lane for more than 1 hour. Several departments worked to clear the roadway. We do not know the extent of the injuries or the names of those involved. Well, we have an update on a golden alert we first told you about last night. Pulaski County deputies say they found a 79-year-old Bobby Wood yesterday afternoon. He fell down a 60-foot bluff behind a neighbor's house. Wood went missing around 5 Sunday morning from his home on Cliffside Drive. He was flown to the hospital for treatment. The Commonwealth of Virginia will receive part of a more than $1 billion opioid settlement following the investigation into the marketing of an anti-addiction drug. The U.S. Department of Justice says the company Indiver tried to increase Suboxone film prescriptions by deceiving healthcare providers into believing the drug was safer than other opioid addiction treatments. A federal grand jury in Abington, Virginia, indicted the company in April of 2019. And a new study by researchers at the University of Kentucky says where you live could impact your mental health. They found those living in rural areas have a higher rate of suicide than in urban areas, and there are several reasons why. Chelsea Jones talked with one of the researchers who explains what needs to change.
UK researchers are unraveling the mysteries behind suicide.
One of the things that I had observed and read about recently is the fact that rural Americans have a much higher rate of suicide than urban Americans.
Dr. Ty Borders, a social scientist, explains recent findings in a national study examining trends in suicide ideation, planning, and attempts.
And there is quite a bit of evidence that persons who are unemployed, who are less educated, that they have a greater likelihood of actually committing suicide.
Researchers say these statistics shed light on how to help people living in rural communities, especially here in Kentucky.
These are persons, again, who are more likely to work in industries nationally, such as logging, agriculture, mining, such as coal mining. And when these jobs go away, they just may not have other things that they can do, unfortunately.
And it doesn't help that rural communities often lack adequate resources to health care.
There are fewer mental health care providers, such as psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists.
Although the national study focused on suicide, he says it points to another problem, Kentucky's opioid epidemic.
If we better tackle mental health problems, we will reduce the issue and the problem of drug abuse, no doubt.
In Lexington, Chelsea Jones, WKYT.
The nonprofit With Love from Harlan posted on Facebook about an opportunity for Black Jewel miners to get help with their utility bills. In the post, the organization announced that Father Jim Sicko will be at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Harlan this morning at 10 o'clock. Father Sicko will pay one electric bill per family as long as funds last. We have a road closing to pass along to you this morning. The Kentucky Department of Highways will temporarily close a portion of Old Jellicoe Creek Road at the intersection of Kentucky 92 and Whitley County starting today. The closing, which is expected to last 4 weeks, is part of the Kentucky 92 realignment project. Drivers will have a detour route available to get around the construction.
Well, the forecast this morning is a mild and muggy one, but dry, at least for the moment. Let's take a look at the cameras. We start up on top of the mountain there, Whitesburg Pine Mountain, US 119, as day breaks. We're still seeing a little bit of cloud cover up there this morning. So again, be aware that some folks are going to wake up with some clouds. Some folks are going to wake up with some fog, especially down into parts of southwest Virginia, Cumberland Valley, and out toward I-75. That's where we're seeing our trouble spots this morning. 60s and getting mostly 70s this morning as you head out the door. So again, mild and muggy. Weather app forecast, we are going to see some changing weather at times today. Again, if you're waking up cloudy this morning, you'll probably stay cloudy for most of the day. If you're waking up with some sunshine, you'll probably see a few more clouds, especially toward the afternoon hours. And we'll see those scattered chances for showers and storms pick up. Scattered being the word there to pay attention to, but keep the rain gear handy. If you see more sunshine, your temperatures will be higher, but I think most of us will top out in those mid-80s there. Connor?
All right, thanks, Brandon, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Coming up, people in southwestern states are dealing with some hot conditions this morning, and not just weather-wise. And more of our seafood is coming from overseas, but our national investigative team finds very little of it is tested for unsafe chemicals and drugs.